It is day 5 of NBA free agency, and the Raptors have been extremely quiet outside of just simply re-signing their own guys. If the Toronto Raptors want to make any more moves this offseason, they will have to clear roster spots, with Garrett Temple and Emmanuel Quickley both being re-signed, and the Raptors selecting 4 rookies at the draft. The team has 15 players under guaranteed contracts and 3 players on two-way contracts. So if the Raptors want to bring back a guy like sharpshooter Trent Jr. or Javon Freeman-Liberty, who played kind of a decent role last year with the team, they're going to either have to waive somebody or make some trades to clear the room for those guys. It does seem pretty unlikely though that the Raptors will bring back Freeman-Liberty, with Davion Mitchell on the team and selecting Jamal Shed with the 45th pick at the draft. I think the most interesting point left of this offseason is what is Gary Trent Jr.'s future with the team and just in the league overall. Toronto had very high hopes for Trent when they traded for him 3 seasons ago, moving Norman Powell to the Portland Trail Blazers. However, since then, Trent has really struggled to improve and keep his minutes up and earn more with this new coaching staff with Coach Darko. The front office also has made it very clear that re-signing Gary Trent Jr. and bringing him back on the team is not a priority, and actually seems like something that they're pretty against doing. There's no buzz around the team offering him a new contract, and it seems that even if Trent were to take a pay cut, which is seeming extremely likely if he wants another contract in this league, the team is going to be okay with letting him walk. The Raptors pretty much selected Trent's replacement at this year's draft in the first round, picking Jacoby Walter with the 19th overall pick. Walter is a 6'4" guard out of Baylor College, one of the best college programs in the country. He's an elite sharpshooter off movement and off the catch, and carried a large offensive load for Baylor last season. Walter's coach spoke very highly of him, said he's a real gym rat, great guy, very nice, and is someone who wants to get better each and every day. With all of that, I really don't think Gary Trent Jr. is coming back to the team, and I think Gary Trent Jr. is just another example of players in this new CBA that are good enough to earn more money than like a mid-level exception or a vet minimum, but there just simply isn't money on a roster for him to get paid that money. Teams just don't want to spend $16-17 million on like a 3-and-D with quotation marks around a player in today's CBA. We saw this with Kelly Oubre last year, having to take like a vet minimum just to get on a team with Philadelphia, as well as Christian Wood taking a vet minimum just to get on a team in LA. I think Gary Trent Jr. is going to be in a very similar role, and I don't think he's getting a big contract. He kind of squandered his opportunity last offseason with getting an extension opportunity, but sometimes you bet on yourself and sometimes you lose, and I think Gary Trent Jr. unfortunately has lost on that bet. And with Walter, Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Davion Mitchell, Jamal Sheed, there's just a lot of other young guards on this team, and I think the Raptors are going to give those players a chance over trying to get Trent back on the roster. The Raptors do have the ability to make some moves in the offseason. Being a cap space team, they have about 12.7, it's probably less now, but they have about like $10 million in cap space left, as well as having $33 million in expiring contracts with Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher on the roster. That money plus their leftover cap space could be used in a deal with like a Golden State Warriors or another team that has a bad contract that they want to get off of, and they're willing to attach maybe 1 or 2 picks with that contract. Brown's name has been floated as a trade chip since the Raptors acquired him last season, but with a new CBA agreement, teams are really hesitant to try to trade for a role player making $23 million, which Brown is. Brown has shown that he's capable of helping a contender at the highest level, winning with the Nuggets as a 6th man, but it's pretty unclear what type of market Brown has, if any, and honestly, with him not being moved yet, I think it's very likely that he's back on the roster to start the season next year, and probably will just finish on the roster for the entire season. I just don't see him getting moved. I feel like that trade would have already happened by now if there was one on the market. The next player who is part of this expiring package is Chris Boucher. Boucher is just in a very interesting place as an NBA player, but also on this team with the Raptors. He saw his playing minutes pretty much disappear last season, especially when this team transitioned to the new core of Barrett, Barnes, Quickley, and this youth movement. He completely fell out of the rotation and just couldn't find a way back in. The 31-year-old forward is only making $11 million next season, which might make it easier for him to be moved, but Chris Boucher's skill set is just not very valuable in today's NBA. Being like a 6'9", 6'10", skinny small forward who can't really shoot, isn't a great defender, and makes his living being like a hustle energy guy, it's hard to find a team where that works, especially for a guy his age and making $11 million. The team did look to trade him at the deadline, but no deal materialized. But one thing about having Boucher still on the roster, which is kind of nice, that if this team wants to re-sign Gary Trent Jr. or bring in another free agent and they really like them, they could cut Boucher, and while it is a pretty big amount of money to just have in dead salary next year, it's not crazy like Bruce Brown's is. And I think Boucher is probably a guy who you can find on the buyout market and a team would be interested in signing if they can get him for the cheap. Well, what's next for the Raptors for the rest of this offseason and free agency? I mean, I think there's pretty much two things left for this team to do, which is either look to trade Chris Boucher and Bruce Brown, or just simply run it back, try to find a role for both players on the team, and then just kind of try to build around this young core. I think the Scottie Barnes extension makes perfect sense. That's just the type of money that these players are making now. I get that $270 million sounds like a lot. He probably won't be making that. It's more likely that'll be $227 over 5 years. And when you look at the level of play that he's already produced at, that's a pretty reasonable deal. That's the type of money that any of these other top rookies are going to be getting the next few seasons, if not more, because the cap is steadily increasing. Onto the Immanuel Quickley contract. Once again, $35 million a year seems very large and seems like a lot of money, but having checked the numbers, that makes Immanuel Quickley the 16th highest paid point guard in the league next season, and I think the 18th highest paid guard overall. Quickley is better than the 16th best point guard in the league, and he certainly isn't the 18th worst guard overall in this league. Yes, it's a big number, but that's just how these numbers are going to look for the next few seasons and moving forward indefinitely. Quickley is worth that money. It's about 20% of the cap throughout the 4 seasons. That's reasonable. I think he has a lot of space to grow, and he's already shown that last year, getting progressively better with the team as the season went on. Lastly, RJ Barrett, I think, is either in for a star leap or is going to be able to produce at a similar level that he did last season. And if that's the case, that's just a really good player. I like the contract. I'm just very excited about this team. I think there's a lot of young players to really like. I think there's a lot of talent on this team that's being underrated. And I think this team is ready to show everyone that, we're not here to compete or win next season, but we're going to be here and we're going to be ready to compete sooner than a lot of people think, and I think most fans will be surprised. If you made it to this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and take it easy.